Excellent. So huge thank you for everybody joining. I appreciate it's 4:30 for this Gatsby Benchmark 1 panel debate. So we've gathered together 3 careers leaders from across Norfolk and Suffolk to talk a little bit more about how they're achieving Gatsby Benchmark 1, some of the obstacles that they're going through and able to actually get there, how they're working with link governors, how they're working with the Enterprise Adviser Network, and many other things. So without further ado, we're welcoming Alison Baker from 164, careers leader, Denise Anderson, careers leader for short stay schools based in Norfolk, and Katie Reddington from Jane Austen College in Norfolk as well. So Alison, can we go to you first, just to give a quick overview of who you are, your role at One, and also just a little bit more about careers in IAG and what's been going on at Suffolk One.
Oh, hi. Good afternoon, everybody. Pleasure to meet you all. I work at 164 College. We're based in Ipswich. We have about 2,200 students from entry level all the way through to our Oxbridge candidates. We're roughly a 50-50 split between vocational and between A-level students. So that gives you a little bit of background about us as a college. My title is Director of Resources, so I manage learning resources across the college, plus I also work with the careers team within college. So we have a bespoke careers team of a careers advisor. We have 1 full-time careers advisor, 1 part-time careers advisor. We also have the work experience and employer engagement posts that fall within our team here at One. But obviously, careers and IIG is responsibility of everyone across the whole college in whatever avenue you work in. So that's obviously our curriculum colleagues. Our students also have a personal progress tutor, and they're very involved in the delivery of IAG to our young people. Thinking about what's important for us as a college is that we take our young people, so before they come into One, that we make sure they're on the right course, and it's providing that guidance before they join us. So that's really important. Then helping them on their journey across college, giving them opportunities, opening them to experiences, just showing them really the right wider world and what's out there, and putting in the right interventions with their IOG as they progress with us, and then obviously progressing onto a positive destination, and really importantly a destination that's correct for them. And that's really important. It's always putting our young people at the heart of what we're delivering to make sure that we're supporting them to the best of our ability. Is that excellent? Okay, Georgia? Yeah,
that's brilliant. Thank you, Alison. Denise, can we go over to you?
Yes, hello. Hello, everybody. My name's Denise Anderson. I'm the careers lead for the short stay school for Norfolk. We comprise of 10 bases. One of them is a specialist school, and that's for primary and secondary. We have 3 other schools that are primary and secondary, and the rest are up till Key Stage 3. There's 280 pupils across the 10 bases, and they consist of PEC students, CME, children missing education, and LAC students. So as you can imagine, we have the highest risk of NEET, which is 100% of our pupils that come to us. We use the local authority RODI algorithm to determine the level of their NEET indicator, and based on that is the amount of support they receive. They all receive support, but we give more to those that we believe are at the highest risk. We have careers run through the curriculum. This is very recent. And we have a 45-minute lesson per week for Key Stage 3 upwards on careers. That's one 45-minute session a week. And we have employer engagement and work experiences hopefully coming back into the short stay school. Obviously, it's been absent for nearly 2 years, so that's been greatly missed. We've even started incorporating primary with careers as well now, with a focus on primary. We think, especially with our children, the earlier on they get some aspirations and they challenge stereotypical thinking, we feel that's the way forward for our pupils. And that's it really. I've been in the post 4 years.
That's excellent. Thank you, Denise. And Katie, over to you.
Hi everyone, I'm Katie. I'm the careers facilitator at Jane Austen College. So Jane Austen is a 11 to 18 secondary school in the middle of Norwich. So we cater for both genders, and we have a sixth form as well. So I cover all of that. I started my post in 2019, and before I started, we didn't have any careers provisions at all. I'm really fortunate because my role is completely dedicated to careers. So everything I do, I always have a careers mindset involved. Yeah, we're really busy at the moment. I think everybody is. I think everyone's feeling that pressure. We are currently trying to organise a work experience programme, which has been a little bit of a we've been really unsure about it because of COVID, and we were really worried that we won't be able to get placement and things like that. But we're pushing on with it. We're also looking at virtual as well. So that's taken up a lot of my time recently. We're also doing our mock interviews. So they've been virtual and they're happening over this 6-week block. So they're the big things that are happening at Jane Austen at the moment. Yeah, that's a really brief summary.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Katie. Okay, now I can sort of resume being Andrew Marr again. Alison, I want to head over to you. Now, I know that at One, the work you do around Benchmark One is fantastic. Can you tell us a little bit about the people who were instrumental in allowing you folks to achieve such a high score on Benchmark One? What people do you need around the table to buy into this?
Okay, so I'm really fortunate that in part of my role, I'm on our leadership team. So that gives me access to all the directors, heads of curriculum, obviously our principal, deputy principals as well. So that I think that really helps. So when I have ideas of things that I want to do strategically for careers, I'm like in the meeting. So I've got all those people there. But it's always just been a really strong focus of the college. So I've been really fortunate in the fact that I haven't had to convince people that careers is important, is part of our whole ethos. So from that point of view, that's really important. So I suppose I've got access to people. I've got people who will listen to me when I come up with ideas. We have a governor, a link governor. We're sort of in between governors. We've got a new one starting with us at the moment, but so I suppose that's one of the challenges, isn't it? The personnel change all the time. So it's bringing people on board, getting them up to speed. And I find my governor is normally a really good advocate for me at that level. So that is really useful. So yeah, I'd recommend that you get a governor on board to support you. And yeah, and also obviously our enterprise advisors, we pick their brains a lot and they're always very willing to give us support and expertise as well. So we use those. Just anybody that we can get on board is quite important. And then because careers is only part of my role, we also obviously have more like a career strategy team. So though I'm a careers leader, we have people who lead in different areas. So like alumni or our SEN or what we call our 1+, so that's our sort of gifted and talented. So we have a whole variety of people and we work together to bring it all together so it doesn't fall on just one person's shoulders.
That's fantastic. Okay. Thank you. And I just want to pick up on the governor piece there. So Denise and Katie, do you both have governors? And my second question, also both have governors in terms of linking with careers and IAG. And my second one is, do you give them any training around careers and IAG before they take on the role?
Do you want to go first, Katie, or do you want me to?
Yeah, so we have a link governor, and he's actually been really great. So he's been our link governor for about 18 months now. And when he first came in, he spoke with our careers lead, Josie, and she kind of guided him. But in the last year, he took part in the training run by the CEC. And due to that, it kind of meant that I could build a relationship with him. So we've since had meetings. He works for the UEA as well. So that's a really good link anyway, just by sheer luck. And we've really been able to, I've been able to show him the benchmarks, what we're achieving. where we need to improve on. And that means that he can really be our advocate when he is in governor meetings. So I found it really valuable, especially in this last year, being able to build that relationship with him.
That's great, thank you. And over to you, Denise.
Yes, our linked governor, this is our second linked governor for careers. Pre-COVID, we had Sarah Steed, who is quite high up at oh gosh, this is really bad. One of the colleges, university.
We'll let you off. Fine.
It's university, sorry. So she plays a role actually with careers within the university. But when COVID hit, she had a different focus. So she's taken a step down. The chap that we've got now, he originally came and did some interviews with our pupils and was so blown away by, them, that he decided he really wanted to get involved with the short stay school. And he is a linked governor. Thank you very much, whoever that is. And
thank you, Madeline.
Thank you, Madeline. And so he's actually, we've had a plan yesterday. I met with him yesterday, and now we're all okay to go to different sites. He's going to be joining me across the bases because there's so many. I need him to get an appreciation of what happens in each different base. They're different sizes. They have different cohorts. So it's to get a flavour of what we're all about. So we have the monitoring visits. I've also done a presentation to the governors in a meeting, just to give them what we call a SOAP. So that's a shortened version of everything that we do on a page. And, trying to quantify what a careers lead does on one piece of paper is quite difficult, but, we did it. Also, I meet up with we sort of generally do a report for them as well for leadership, so that the leadership team can we generate a chart to see how the progress of careers is going, sort of trying to break it down for them so that it's on one page as well. It's very difficult to try and write it up. They won't read it, so we have to do it as visual and impactful. So that's what we do.
That's excellent, thank you. Now I want to sort of go into some of the sub benchmarks in terms of benchmark 1, and I will also say at this point, if some of the audience, if you want to throw in some questions, please just pop them in the chat and I'm happy to present them back to our panelists as well. Just in terms of being a careers leader, firstly, is it a post that you nominated yourself for, or did you get nominated for it? And secondly, what do you feel makes a good careers leader? What are some of the key qualities you lead? So who wants to go first? Let's go over to Katie.
So in terms of nomination, we have a careers leader. So because I'm the facilitator, Josie's our leader, so she's a member of SLT.
Yep.
So I think in terms of, we're a bit weird how we spread it. And I guess I could say I nominated myself because I wanted to work in careers. I have an education background, and this was something that really interested me, and it worked with my previous job as well. So I was really enthusiastic about it, and I think that's actually really helped me in terms of kind of being able to do things. I think I'm quite a happy and smiley person, and I think that helps me because I am enthusiastic about it, and I'd like to think that shows through. So I nominated myself, if you could call it that.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you. Denise, over to you.
So I was on one of the bases originally at Douglas Bader School, and what happened was they were at the senior leadership meeting, and one of the heads picked up that the NEAT figures were a lot less where I was than anywhere else. So they then said, why is that? And they said, well, I've got a Denise. So that's how the ball started rolling. And then they asked me if I would just go to the other two main bases at the time, which was Loxley and Rosebery. And it sort of started from there. And then they advertised the post, and they invited me to apply. And yeah, the rest is history. So that was me. If someone said to me I'd be a careers lead, 6 or 7 years ago, I'd have said, don't be silly. That's not my thing, but I love it. It's a very rewarding job. It's a thankless task, but it's rewarding from our point of view when you see someone years down the line and, you know, they say, thanks ever so much. You've changed my, or that changed my life, you know, so.
And in terms of someone stepping into the role new, you know, what would be your advice to them?
Oh, everyone needs a Melvin Ruff in their life. So those of you that are from Norfolk, Melvin Ruff is the strategy and inclusion manager for Norfolk County Council. So I was advised if I had questions to ask him. So love his heart. I sent him an email. I think if you printed it off, it'd be about 3 A4 pieces of paper, and with loads of questions, because I knew nothing about being a careers lead in the fact of trying to get the Gatsby benchmarks and things like that. So so yes, that was my first port of call, was to sort of bombard the Norfolk County Council with lots of questions. So what did Melvin do? He said, can you put the kettle on and I'll come round and we'll have a good old chat about it. And that's what we did. And it was fantastic. So, and really, he's been an advocate for the short stay school ever since. And that's how we that's where I first approached. But I think ask questions, join teams, don't be shy to ask other people for help. I actually paired up with a lot of different people. You know, I sort of had a look on their websites and sent them a message and said, do you mind answering a few questions? And I think everybody, you know, who's a careers lead or involved in careers understands it's a very lonely job. I mean, there's only me. So anyone that's not got someone who can bounce ideas off, something like that is very, very helpful.
That's excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to come to Alison with a slightly different question. Do you think you can achieve the other 7 Gatsby benchmarks without firstly achieving benchmark 1?
So for me, I felt achieving benchmark 1 was the easiest to achieve. I don't know whether that's everybody's experience, but for me, if you look at all the different criteria and things like building your policy and your strategic plan, it sort of sets the tone for where you're going. So then once you've got those building blocks, then it's easier to sell what you need to do to achieve all the other Gatsby benchmarks from there. So yeah, so basically I think you need to nail Gatsby benchmark 1 personally, but I know obviously lots of people have different ideas and approach it in other ways. And I think the reason why I was asked to be the careers lead, but I think one of the reasons was that I'm quite good at seeing big pictures and bringing things in. So we achieve loads of the Gatsby benchmarks. We do loads of things around college, and I'm quite good at looking and making order out of things to then present to people. So I think that helps. But was obviously, as my colleagues were saying, it's really important to be enthusiastic, friendly, approachable, because you do have to rely on goodwill of people across the organisation to achieve what you want to achieve. So yes, thinking outside of the box, coming up with different ideas, not being afraid to give things a go. If they don't work out, they don't work out, but nothing ventured, nothing gained. So you really need to go for it.
Well said. And Katie and Denise, is that sort of a similar case with yourselves?
I would agree. I think in terms of benchmark 1, I find it's the easiest to keep consistent. I found COVID has really affected the others, especially in terms of kind of my encounters and things like that. But actually, I can really stay on top of benchmark 1 and keep it consistent. And I think I would think it would be similar in other schools as well. And I think you can tick those boxes as long as you're putting in those resources and you're putting in that effort. I think you can get there quite easily with benchmark 1.
Yeah, there's always a template somewhere online where you can glean information and support, you know, in that way. And I think with benchmark 1 as well, you've also got, so I work closely with the Senko, so they can let me know whenever things change and it impacts policy and procedure. We are part of a massive organisation. We're part of the UET, and they want to inject so at the moment we're having a massive website shake-up, and I was petrified that everything was going to disappear. And I would say it's actually strengthened the policies. You've got people that can write them better than me, and so they're tying it up a bit better. And because we've got specialist schools, we also have to do that slightly different to what we call mainstream school, which isn't mainstream, but you know what I mean. For us, it's mainstream.
No, that's excellent. Thank you. Now, again, I was talking about sort of some of the sub benchmarks. How do you assess when measuring the effectiveness of your careers program? So at the end of 12 months, do you look back and you think, okay, well, we've hit a number of meaningful encounters? Do you think, okay, well, we've got X amount of feedback? What screams success for you by the end of the year when it comes to careers? Who wants to take that one?
I don't mind going first for this one. So we do termly evaluations. So we go onto Compass. Also, we do listen to the pupils and the staff feedback as we're going along. And I think if they apply what they're learning straight afterwards, you've done something well. Yeah. But we do use also like feedback from the pupils, the staff, the parents. If you have a good rapport with some of the parents and they say to you, oh God, they didn't stop talking about it, they did this, they did, you're making that's impactful and that's positive. Yeah. If it's the other way around, we tend to sort of think, right, how can we do this? And I will sit down with the pupils and talk to them about it. Well, what did you want to see? What did you need more of or less of? And I think they're the best judges, because at the end of the day, it's them that's going to be going through this the most.
Definitely.
It's how we can help them the best. So that's how we do it.
And we all know that to achieve benchmark 1, obviously you have to gain the feedback of teachers, parents, employers, and students. How did you go about obtaining some of that feedback? Did you send out surveys? Did you ask them verbally? Did you get a focus group? I'm happy for everybody to shout in, and I will come to some of the questions I can see in the comment box shortly.
So we use SurveyMonkey.
Yeah.
And also we always put in paper feedback sheets in the lesson. Sometimes a member of staff has to sit with them, and then staff have their own feedback forms as well. So we use a lot of data that way.
Fantastic. And Alison, Katie?
For us, we do a variety of ways because we get feedback really. So there's always like a whole staff survey that goes out each year about all different aspects of college. So we always have some questions in there. Obviously, it's going into curriculum meetings, talking to colleagues. I suppose a little bit more of a focus group, but yeah, asking them how they feel it's going. Students, again, surveys, focus groups, are all inbuilt anyway as part of the stuff we do in college. So we use those. Parents is possibly one we also we perhaps struggle with a little bit, because obviously you get, emails and things coming in. Every time we run an event, we'd always send a survey out. And actually we went back last year, which was really successful. We just did the supermarket idea. We gave them all little counters to pop in jars as they left to say whether they found it helpful or whatever, as well as slips that they could fill in as well. We gave them all paper and pens as well, so they could fill it in that way. But actually the counters worked really well, just something really simple. Just a variety of ways, really. Obviously, employers work very closely again with our enterprise advisors. They're always amazing at giving us feedback. So, just, anywhere that we can think to, gauge feedback from, we re-record it. And I think often you get feedback and it sort of goes over your head and you don't think to note it down or put it somewhere, just save those emails, anything like that. So, as well as your more formal feedback mechanisms.
Great feedback. Thank you, Alison. And Katie, what about yourselves?
Yeah, we have similar methods. So we have a section on our website dedicated for feedback. So it has my email address, so they can come directly to me. I also send out a feedback Google form at the end of events for employers for them to kind of give me an account of their experience. And then a lot of it is verbal. On the letters we put, so for example, for our work experience, I had my email address on so they could contact me. And trust me, if you're trying to organise work experience in a pandemic, you definitely get feedback. So it's definitely being utilised, particularly from a parental point of view. So it's kind of putting out different methods and just ensuring that my email address is just everywhere, so that you can always get in touch.
Great advice, thank you. I'm going to come to some of the questions in the chat. So got a message from Emma Duran. So I'd be interested to know what systems everybody uses to plan and measure impact. So for example, Careers Enterprise companies tool Compass Plus. Who wants to take that and tell us a little bit about the tools you use to measure that impact?
I could go first, but I don't know it's going to be of much use to any of you out there. So we've actually developed our own system. We've got our own dashboard system that we use in college to track students' progress. And we're very fortunate we have a web developer on our staff, and he's actually written me a bespoke program to record it all, and it's something that teachers use every day and students use every day as well. So there's two sort of halves to it. There's one half that the students can actually fill in encounters and various things that they've done, like their part-time work. Then teachers can upload all the things that they've done with their students. People who've had, like the careers team, can upload their careers interviews, and then it's all coming into a dashboard. But I've tried to make it really simple, because one of the things that I found was that I didn't want people to have to go onto a separate platform just to record what they've been doing with their students. I didn't think that would work, and we have had 2 or 3 years of trying lots and lots of different ways. We've had shared Excel spreadsheets. We've had meetings where we've asked everybody to tell us what's happening. I mean, we're such a big college and we have so many different things happening. We can't have like a year group in, because that wouldn't work in our college. Obviously, it's you might do something in your A-level sociology class, you might do something else in your A-level sport class, you know, so it's recording all those. So we've gone for a bespoke solution for us, and then it will give us some really powerful reporting to those.
Excellent, thank you, Alison. Katie?
So we have Unifrog for our online activities. That's been quite useful. But I would say, similar to Alison, ours is probably not the most useful to you, because I use a lot of spreadsheets and internal systems. Compass Plus has been something that I've wanted to do for a good few months now. It's just getting the time to be able to integrate it properly. And that's kind of one of my to-do things for the next coming term. It's just been so busy.
That's great. And just on that, Katie, so I can see a few folks have asked about Unifrog. What's been your experience with that so far?
I really like it. You can add interactions so the students can see those interactions. I find it's a really good starting place, especially for the younger years, which was a little bit of a surprise for me, because I think you automatically think Unifrog is going to be very university centred, but it's got some really good career resources. I've also found really useful their resource section. They've got lesson plans there, they've got PowerPoints that you can use, so it takes a lot of the work out if you need something really quick. So I find it really useful. I also find I'm a little bit of a nerd, so I really like the personality section, and I love finding out what kids' personalities are and what jobs they might like to do with that. So I think it's quite fun, and it is a really useful tool in terms of seeing which elements you can that students are interacting with. Have they put together a CV? Have they favorited subjects? And it also gives you some really nice infographics as well, so you can see what the cohort looks like in things like the personality, their interests, and things like that.
That's excellent, thank you. And Denise, yourself?
So we use Compass, and I also use CDI as well sometimes, just to sort of, if I'm on my own and I quickly want to go over it, so I'm not, because normally I sit with Compass with the Enterprise Adviser Network staff to do that with me. But when I'm sitting there just focusing on something, I sometimes use the CDI to go through it, the evaluation tool. It's just an A3 sheet of paper with the information on it, and cross-reference it to see if it's hitting all the right marks. I also have a matrix that I use, again, like the other two, Alison and Katie. I use this, it's online, and other people have got access to it on Teams, so they can add to it, have a look at it, so they can keep up to date with who's done what. So if they haven't done a CV, our children come on and off roll all the time. Sometimes they're only with us for 3 months, sometimes they're with us for a year. So we need to make sure that they're not slipping through any cracks. So yeah, there's various methods for various, depends what it is. But yeah, Compass is our main one. And that's with 2 other members of staff from, that's Madeline and Catherine.
That's brilliant, thank you. And I just wanted, and I'll come to some of the comments shortly. I would just want to know, in terms of your career programme, career strategies, do they form part of your overall school development plan? You know, are you linking regularly with the senior leadership teams to make sure that it isn't just a standalone document on the side? Denise and Sin nodding head. I assume that's a yes.
So I didn't know this document ever existed until someone tried pulling me up on something, and I said, "What are you talking about?" It's the School Improvement Development Plan. So they basically break down everything that Ofsted will look at. I believe that's where it comes from. It's about, you know, results of an audit, and there's a lot of it with careers in there, and I never knew anything about it until the 3rd year into being careers lead. So I was like a kid in a toy shop. I just started adding things in because they said, "Oh no, you just add what you need to," and that's, so much got done, because once it's in there, they won't remove it. And they will action it because they don't want to look bad when it comes to. So yeah, that was the best tool ever for basically for raising the profile of careers. One of the biggest achievements was I don't know if you all have your 2 CPD days when you come back in September. Do you have 2 days? We have a whole school one on the first day. So there's 500 staff. And we had these 45-minute sessions, 4 of, where all the staff go through it. And I managed to bag one of them for careers. I couldn't believe it. And it was amazing. And we had the Enterprise Adviser Network there. We had an employer there. We had talking about LMI and the importance, and about cross-curriculum. It really was fantastic. And everybody said this was the one they looked and thought, "Oh God, this is going to be really boring." And they loved it, because we made it interactive. We made them do activities. We made them think how they did when they were at school. And they really said they've just learned so much. And even now they still say, "Oh, I promised you that. I'm going to give you that." And that was 2 years ago. So, you know, the CDIP, as they call it, is the best thing ever. So that's how SLT come to appreciate exactly what we do, because I just stick bits on there for them to do, and they have to do it. It's great.
I like your style. Katie, is it a similar sort of situation at Jane Austen College as well?
Yeah, we have a similar plan to the personal development plan, and that includes a lot of, it's centred around what Ofsted looks for, and obviously careers is becoming increasing focus point of that. So luckily I could put in my careers knowledge into that and make sure that it is embedded in, and I've kind of linked that in with the activities we do as well. So it really puts that purpose and that kind of real big gravitas behind it. We also, I think, again, was super lucky because my careers lead for the first half of this year, she's actually now the head of school. So she knows the benchmarks, she knows the purpose of my role, she knows the purpose of careers. And I think that's really been kind of a feather in my cap in terms of that as well. Again, it's just super lucky, and I think it's just the way it's happened. So yeah, we have included it, but it has been a struggle. And I think when I first started, it was really small, and it's been a little bit of a mountain climb to get to that point.
Thank you for that, Katie. And Alison.
Yeah, so we there's obviously the strand in our QUIP, which is our overall quality improvement plan. So obviously there are careers things in there, but also it's then fed down. So each department, directorate, curriculum area also produces their self-evaluation reviews each year, and a part of that is that they have to report on their careers actions and the way that the curriculum has interacted with outside organisations in employers and how they've supported their students. And that would be for our student services team. They also do that. And then obviously I do a bespoke one for the careers team, which is obviously sort of the nuts and bolts, I would say, more of how we're going to achieve things. But yeah, so it's embedded throughout the organisation. So right from the top all the way down. And then also some people have it as part of their appraisal targets as well. So you don't have, obviously doesn't just have to be like in the team, that the careers team or the people who work with careers, but it could be anybody could have a careers related target within their appraisal. So that's how it just sort of feeds through, so everybody feels ownership of it. And I think that's really what I want to do, is to make sure that every member of staff in whatever role feels ownership for supporting our students with their progression.
That's brilliant, thank you. Because my next question was going to be, you know, we can prepare lots of lovely career strategies and programs and policies and school development plans, but it's actually making sure that staff are doing more than just read it. They're actually engaging with it and feeling, you know, a lot of value from that document, and really trying to get ownership of that. And as you've mentioned, Alison, there around, you know, they feel part of that student's journey in terms of their career. Denise and Katie, you know, is it a similar sort of situation with you folks in terms of, you know, are the staff really bought into this more than just it's another program?
I think since the CPD session, definitely. But since then we've had COVID, so we lost the momentum.
Yeah.
Because obviously everyone was converting everything into an online activity. So, you know, we sort of got a bit lost along the way, but it's picking up steam again now. And it helps that the leadership team are on board and they're pushing it as well. It's part of, like, someone, I think you mentioned the performance management of other staff, that they have careers entwined in it. We've also got 14 careers champions as well.
Okay.
Across the bases. So that's secondary and primary. And that's part of their performance management. They have, the only people that are doing it are people that have expressed an interest. So it's something they want to do, something they're keen to promote, and something.
So what's my next question? So what's a careers champion?
So a careers champion, I can feed information to the bases without actually being there. So any changes, anything of interest that I think they would like. So that's all done on Teams. It's only been in place since September last year. I have 28 members of staff who deal with careers in the lessons I mentioned earlier, the 45-minute sessions. So it's making sure that we capture careers activities that otherwise I would not know about. So for argument's sake, I'm the EVC for Douglas Bader, but unbeknown to me, over at one of the other bases, primary children year on year are going to Pizza Hut, becoming a cook and serving these things, you know, and so they're having a real employees activity, and they've got questions they prepare, you know, and they talk about health and safety. And I never captured that because I knew nothing about it. So having a careers champion and highlighting and flagging and putting it as an item to celebrate in our newsletters, you know, that's fantastic. For otherwise I'd have just sat there and said, well, no, nothing happens there, which is an absolute fib. But this way we're capturing everything, and it's showing that we actually do way more. And this was a frustration. We do way more careers than we realise. But no one ever knew about it because they didn't flag it up. So now, because we've got the champions, we're doing that and we're promoting it. And there's a careers board in every school. There's one in every classroom, which is cross curriculum. You know, it's really taking off. Like I said, we had a bit of a, they are really helpful. Whoever just put, they love that, Denise. It's fantastic. And it really helps the base leads as well. So because obviously there's 10 schools, you know, the base leads get more involved because they then have to talk about it with the careers champions. It sort of makes it come alive a bit more. And they can help find subject leaders or subjects specific activities within their bases. And then we share best practice where we meet up sort of every half term.
That's brilliant. Thank
really
you, Denise.
Helpful.
And Katie, what about yourselves at Jane Austen College?
I think it's been one of my harder struggles, the staff buy-in. I think all the staff were really enthusiastic, but everybody has been so busy, particularly when I first started, because there wasn't any careers provision. We're a really new school as well. We only opened in 2014. So there wasn't really kind of anything that was to provide any foundations. So I found that just by being there, promoting activities, showing their worth has really, really helped, because people they started to take notice, and they're like, oh, actually, that was really good. And oh, we can link that in. And I found that over the last 18 months, 2 years I've been here, that momentum has really increased. We've also had a couple of key members of staff that have just been incredibly enthusiastic, and I cannot praise them enough. And that's kind of helped really cement my role and my cause, and that's really helped. But it has been a struggle, and I think that's just because teachers are just so busy and they've got so much on their plate already. And then you add careers in, and it feels, when you first say it, like a massive, massive task. And actually, it doesn't need to be that. They can just tie it in with what they're teaching, link it in, and it's just adding context. And just making them realise that it doesn't have to be work from them. I can put that work in and make that happen. And they've just got to let me have that time to be able to do that.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And just from each of you, what has been one of the biggest barriers to achieving Benchmark 1?
I would say awareness of careers and the impact it has on the pupils and the staff and the parents. I think it's just getting them on board initially. So it wasn't until I did the CPD with the teachers and our parents, we come, disadvantaged children. A lot of the parents don't engage with us. So that's probably our biggest barrier, is getting unless it's something really positive, we don't hear anything. So I would say that's my biggest barrier, is parental engagement within the Gatsby benchmark, getting the feedback from the parents.
I'm sure you're probably not the only one in that, not only in terms of panelists, but I think probably the audience as well. Alison, what about yourself?
I think possibly the barrier of the fact that there's Gatsby benchmarks and we need to achieve them does not sound the most interesting and exciting thing that you've got to do. It's almost like another initiative. We've got to meet the Gatsby benchmarks as a college. Oh no, what are we going to have to do? So you've got to work around that, and that's why we always try and put that it's for the students at the heart of that. So yeah, think how we're going to enhance those life choices of those students, how we're going to support their progression, and that's what everybody who works in education wants to do anyway. So it's just like flipping it really, and then if you do all that, then you're going to achieve the Gatsby benchmarks, aren't you? But I think it's the fact that the Gatsby benchmarks came out and we've all got to achieve them. Everybody just thinks, oh no, this is another, however well-meaning they are, it's just like, oh no, there's another thing now. We've now a new target we've got to hit. So I think, it's I think you've just got to sell all those opportunities for our students and how everybody can support those students. And then, you almost achieve your Gatsby benchmarks without thinking about it. And I think especially like some of the other Gatsby benchmarks, like engagement with employers and things like that, that people do them, but they don't even think that that's a part of a Gatsby benchmark.
I think that's a really interesting way of looking at it, because I think sometimes perhaps it's the careers team that needs to be thinking about the Gatsby benchmarks, but the way you convey that message onto teaching staff and students and parents, they don't need to know all of those details. Whereas actually it can be a meaningful encounter, or how should we engage with some of the parents? We don't need to be hammering down sort of the throat around, oh, okay, that's benchmark 2, have you hit it yet? And so I think that's a really good way of looking at it. Katie, what about yourself?
I would say similar things. Parents, definitely. I can definitely feel that from a Jane Austen point of view. And as I said before, staff buy-in as well, just making sure that people are aware, they know what we're doing, the reasons behind it, and kind of, why it's so important. I found that a real struggle. And also just time, fitting everything in, I really struggle with. And I feel for those schools that maybe their staff haven't got as much time dedicated to it, because I have 3 days and I really struggle to fit everything in. So I think time for me is a big one.
That's brilliant. Thank you for sharing that. And I also want to come to, because I'm conscious of time. What do you all think a good careers program should have in it? Are we just trying to target each and every student? Should we be having more targeted approaches in terms of certain cohorts of pupils? What really defines your careers programs in terms of standout features? I'm going to head over to Alison to answer that to begin.
That's a big question, Jordan.
Big question.
I think it's got to be, I would say, flexibility and personalised are sort of the most important things for me. So, obviously we look at our students, we look at where they want to go to. We want to pick up those who, potentially maybe are neat, so they would have but we would look at those. But it's gathering all that information and then seeing how we can respond to individual needs in but obviously we've got 2,200 students, so also that is tricky, but for us that's the most important thing.
Excellent. And Katie?
I definitely think a targeted approach is really good. I personally prefer, that was part of the reason why I got into careers anyway, is to make sure those that may be left behind really get that support. And I feel that's really important. So we look at Pupil Premium quite a lot. We have recently taken quite a nice focus on those who have English as a second language, because we felt that maybe the Year 11s some of them may have slipped the net because maybe we've been a bit too confident about their abilities in English, for example. So that's been a recent thing that's kind of been flagged to us. But I'm also really conscious that if you have a targeted approach, you don't want to leave those that may slip the net behind. So there needs to be this kind of inclusive feel as well. But I definitely think a targeted approach is my preferred. And also you can get their likes and their dislikes. When you've got smaller targeted groups, you can really focus it in on what appeals to them, what they're going to get excited about. We do a lot of surveys, so what their interests are. Unifrog is quite good at that as well, because you can see what maybe they favorited and things like that. So I definitely think a targeted approach is good, but just being conscious that you don't want them to slip the net. So ensuring that there are support networks for those that may need it as well. Brilliant.
Thank you, Katie. And Denise, over to you.
So we generally have 90 Year 11s. And like I mentioned earlier about them all hitting the on the Ronnie algorithm, they are all high risk NEET. But because they're all high risk NEET, you can't see which ones need the most support. So we rag rate those pupils. We break them down into groups of 3, red, amber, green. And then we have like different degrees of support. So we also have pathways as well. As you would in school, you sometimes have children that do more vocational than you do have. So we tend to focus on, those that are choosing to do different activities more vocationally. We will then do, we'll look at work experience or getting an employer to come and talk to them or online to do the employee engagement, so they can prepare questions to increase our need, to increase their aspirations really. Yeah. So we had one young girl who wanted to go one direction. And after she spoke to, where she actually jumped in on a class that was actually talking about something else, and she was so blown away by it. She was like, actually, I want to look at this. I want to go this direction. It's completely different to what she wanted to do. So that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's about giving them all those options and choices, and opening their mind to possibility. A lot of our kids have been told that they will never amount to anything. So we're saying the opposite. We're saying you can do anything you want, but you need to apply yourself. So we are very pupil focused, and then that individuality. We have that luxury. My job is just to do careers lead, and then we sort of we go from there. But this year has been different. I was dreading the predictions, if you like, but actually I've been pleasantly surprised. So fingers crossed it stays that way in September. But yeah, I thought we'd be on a downward. I don't know about anybody else. They're all probably worried that this year's year 11 have missed education for nearly 2 whole academic years. So the impact of that is, are they being re-engaging? Are they staying at home? Are they, and what level they're working at? Colleges have probably noticed that the actual predictions are a lot lower than they would expect, I'm assuming. So I can only go by our cohorts. So I would say pupil focus, definitely. And then group them together. If there is a lot of people that want to be a mechanic, we'll put them together. We'll do something online to engage them.
That's brilliant. And I'm sure, no doubt, sort of that changes year on year depending on any shifting cohort and the types of young people you're working with. The last question I do want to pose, and if folks who are still on the call, if you would like any questions, please drop them in the chat now while I ask this final question, and then I can come back to those and post them to the panelists. What's one thing that you would sort of have in your careers leader kit bag that you sort of can't live without, whether that be certain skills and qualities that you've gained, or just general advice that you'd give to other careers leaders to get to the place that your respective organisations are currently in regards to Benchmark 1? Another big question.
Enthusiasm. I think spread the love, spread the the enthusiasm. They can get caught up in it as well. I think it's really hard to be rude to someone who's happy and enjoying what they do. And I've always been told it comes across in my job, no matter what I'm doing. So I think being enthusiastic about what you do. If you're not in it, then really you shouldn't be doing it. It's one of those jobs.
Thank you, Denise. And Alison, what about yourself?
Yeah, well, I was going to say enthusiasm, but I'll change it slightly. Also, I think you need to be enthusiastic, but also I'd say you need to have a plan, but not a rigid plan. Obviously, keep it flexible so you can respond to ever-changing needs. But it helps for me personally if I sort of know where I'm hoping to head, and then actually taking a little bit of time back every now and again to reflect on that, and to reflect on it and then change it if I need to. But yes, and also just be enthusiastic, because as I said earlier, you do rely on goodwill a lot of the time. So yeah, and thank people, really important. Always drop a thank. If you know somebody's organised something that's going to benefit you, just drop them a thank you. It takes a minute, and that's builds you a lot of goodwill as well.
Good advice. Thanks, Alison. And Katie?
I agree. Enthusiasm 100%, definitely. And then adaptability, but also the ability to be able to take a little bit of risk. I find that you never really know how career events are going to come across or result in. And I think a lot of what I've had to do has been a little bit of a risk I haven't known, and just waiting to see what works and then being able to adapt that into your next year's programme. So seeing what works, seeing if it works well, and being able to say, okay, that didn't work so well, maybe we could adapt that a little bit for next time, or find a different way of doing that.
Brilliant. Thank you, Katie. And one last question from Bal. So how do you prevent careers being a bolt-on to the curriculum? I'm going to give everyone 30 seconds to answer that, because I'm quite keen we keep it to time. Who would like to go first?
So we added one column in their planning for the curriculum, the TLR, so our teaching and learning staff curriculum leads, and what they do is they put one column and then they tick that when careers is involved with that somehow, or they can see it, and then we grow from there. So it's not something that goes, oh, that's just careers, it's blending it in. It's, oh, actually, to make this come alive, we could bring a specialist in, or we could do a video, tell me what you want and I'll get it. We've got the connections. So it's about them recognizing that. So that's what we do, put a column in the planning, careers, and they just flag it. And then I see that and then I go, right, how can I help? So straight away, I haven't had to read their scheme of learning. They've done that. They know that inside out. I don't.
I think
this makes it a lot easier.
I think it's a fantastic idea. Thank you, Denise. Katie.
I think ensuring that teachers know that it doesn't have to be that add-on at the end of a lesson. They are already probably doing it, and it's just making them realise that they are doing it. So just providing that context to things, even little things like posters being around, talking about where you can take it, school trips. There was a trip to Sizewell last year. That's a really good one because they are visiting that nuclear power plant, they're seeing the workers, and that's without my prompt. So ensuring that staff know that it doesn't have to be this extra fee that they just whack on at the end of the lesson. They are already doing it, but just they need to recognise it.
Great advice. Thank you, Katie. And Alison.
I think I'd agree, with both the panelists there. I think it is one of my examples was thinking about a trip to a theatre just to see a show, but actually it's going to a workplace, isn't it? And when the penny dropped with my performing arts teachers that actually, they are doing that anyway, it didn't take them very long to arrange to meet, like the stage manager agreed to meet them. So it was like, they were going to the show, they were seeing the whole performance, but actually they were going to a place of work as well. So it's just, facilitating people to make those connections with what's being taught in the classroom and the world of work and careers, really. And then it becomes integral.
Great advice. Thank you. Well, folks, I mean, we're on time. This has been fantastic. I've learned lots. I hope that everybody on the call has also learned lots. Obviously, we've got it recorded. So if anybody does want to go back or you want to share it with colleagues, I'll make sure I share it with the original attendee list. We'll also put it on our YouTube channel, so you can either put it on your web channel, all those sorts of fun things. But just a huge thank you, Denise, Alison, Katie, huge thank you for joining us. And everybody who's watched us for the last hour, again, thank you. And have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.